Hey, you want to see an awesome tech with Greninja's down taunt? This was shown to me in my Discord by Hot Dog Gaming. Link to the server in the description if you want to submit your own facts. But the idea of this is pretty simple. Just use Greninja's down taunt on certain moves like these, and you can lock the character into place. Yoshi here actually can't even move, so as long as Greninja doesn't drop the input, this is virtually a soft lock. Elephant in the room being the percent. Yeah, unfortunately if you want to try and do this at lower damage thresholds, the win box of the down taunt won't be strong enough to counteract whatever move is coming in at all, and it'll just fail. And by lower damage, I mean anything that isn't several 100%. So is this practical? Unfortunately not. But is it funny? Kinda. Just another thing to mark down for the 999% meta. For some characters, even being at this threshold doesn't make the win box strong enough, so Greninja needs to be made even bigger for it to kinda work. Chrome's up B is apparently way stronger than Ike's in this regard. King Dedede's is a little bit better, but not by too much. Though I think it's really funny how you can like completely counter Kirby's rock. Also, check out this awesome double kill setup. And also I was wondering if like Incineroar's up special would still have a hitbox even when it's going upward, and it does. So... see? This is what happens when you let me cook. Speaking of cooking, that leads me perfectly into today's video sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal planning service that ships recipes with pre-portioned ingredients right to your doorstep. With over 50 recipes and even more items to help support your lifestyle, there's loads to choose from and try with this service. And because the ingredients are perfectly portioned for whatever recipe you get, you can feel free to try new things without having a bunch of leftover ingredients you'll never touch again. And as easy as all this portioning stuff makes cooking, there's even a quick and easy option with 20 recipes that keep the whole process under like 20 minutes. With how foolproof the step-by-step recipes are anyways, these options really make it easier to get in the kitchen and hone your cooking skills without wasting all of your summer away. As much as I love cooking, I find myself doing it less and less this time of year, so having options like this that makes everything easy while still being delicious and diverse is really appreciated. So if any of this sounds enticing to you, click the link in the description or use my code and get 10 free meals plus free appetizers for life. That's one appetizer item per box while subscription is active if you're in the US. Outside of the US, the local discount will apply. Again, just click the link in the description, as doing so will actually greatly support me, and thank you HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Anyways, Game & Watch's judge is super interesting. It picks a number between 1 and 9, with a variety of effects for each number, with the star of the show being a super powerful 9. For some basic mechanics, these aren't necessarily 1/9 odds per number. For the very first time you swing it, they are. However, you cannot get the same number twice in a row. Therefore, after the first swing, all other numbers have a 1 out of 8 chance to appear, with the number you just swung having a 0% chance. This first swing isn't just for the start of the match, but it's also for the start of a stock. As we can see here, I got a 5, got KO'd, then instantly another 5. So you can get 2 in a row in that sense, but that's about it. Most of the time, it's a 1 out of 8 chance. So let me paint you a scenario. You're in an intense match that's been dragging on forever. The timer is past the 10-second mark, about to be past even the 5-second mark. That's not a lot of time left and you need to seal the stock. So in desperation, you go for a Hail Mary judge. What do you think the odds are here? Well, as prompted by C# on Twitter, the answer is more interesting than you might think. To summarize the context here, there's a super close tournament match, Game 5, where the timer's about to hit 0 and Monty, the Game & Watch here, hits a judge that rolls a 5 instead of a 9. And they continue to roll throughout this time period and they never get a 9 at all. C# brings up that this is an extra unlucky encounter as the judge was supposed to have a 50% chance of being a 9 in this situation, not just the 1 out of 8 chance. Given that the jump from 1/8 to 1/2 should be pretty obvious even without major use of statistics, we are more than capable of testing this out manually. So let's start this with a scenario of even stocks. I did some tests with all 3 stocks left, and some with each character on their last stock. When the 5-second countdown starts, what were my judge rolls? And just as a heads up, when we're counting total judge uses, we're ignoring the judge roll that happens after a 9. If you can guess why we're doing that, then you'll win $1 billion. Anyways, I did this 3 times, totaling to 17 countable uses of judge in the 5-second countdown. And out of those 17 uses, 9 only appears twice. 2 out of 17. It's pretty close to 1 out of 8. Pretty obviously not a 50% chance for any of these tests. So you might say that it's the percent difference, right? It was specified that being in last place with 5 seconds left is what boosts the odds. Maybe the self-inflicted damage from rolling a 1 judge doesn't even count for that or something. That's fair, so I did it several more times, but with Game & Watch having more than 100% damage over Mario. Here I got a total of 31 countable judge uses. Out of those 31, only 4 of them were a 9. Again, basically 1 out of 8. Now, I'm in no way qualified to try and read all of this code to interpret what should and shouldn't happen. All I know is that a 50% chance would be pretty noticeable throughout all of these mini tests, and yet the odds were surprisingly consistently near the 1 out of 8 range. Additionally, it was mentioned that a 7 judge should just not appear at all while the countdown is happening, but it did for me like plenty of times, so I'm not sure about that. Anyways, these are just some basic results testing a similar scenario to the clip that was mentioned. Does it feel like a 9 here is a 50% chance based on my results? Not at all. But much like an old withered woman sitting in front of a slot machine for hours on end, there's no use in quitting now, is there? Perhaps Game & Watch needs to be last place, not just in terms of percent, but also stocks. So I tested the scenario of a 3 stock match, Game & Watch at 1 stock with Mario at all 3. So with this 2 stock difference, now what happens? I got a total of 13 countable judges, and in those, 8 of them were a 9. 8 out of 13 is actually over 50% odds, and it was incredibly obvious just how much more likely it was to appear. That's already a really big result to find, like we've basically just confirmed there being some kind of increase, which is super interesting. And why would it be over 50%, even just outside of probability nonsense? Well, and this is even echoed on the wiki, but it's likely that, for these increased odds, what happens is that there's a coin flip that rolls for the 9 to appear, but when that coin flip fails, it just goes to base odds. So even if you fail the coin flip, you can still get a 9 anyways. And this is on top of the fact that if you used judge before, then whatever number you got won't be able to appear again, and all of this together makes the odds closer to like 60% or so. Okay, so that's cool. Now what about just a 1 stock difference? Game & Watch at 2, Mario still at 3. This is a scenario I tested out way more than the others, because out of 64 countable swings, I got only 9 11s. 11 9s. So 11 out of 64. Feels a little higher than the 1 out of 8 odds, but nowhere near the same level as a coin flip. And these are a lot of samples to pull from. Now, as the kids say, what the shigma? So like, what if it's still a 1 stock difference, but now Game & Watch is on his last stock? And in this case, out of 19 judges, I got 12 9s. 12 out of 19. Once again, way above the coin flip odds, and very clearly way more than before. So now I wanted to test if whether or not being on my last stock changes anything. Let's get a little bit more extreme, with a 10 stock match and Mario having all 10 but Game & Watch having 2. So he's not on his last stock, but he's still at a massive deficit. What do we get here? Out of 18 judges, we got 9 9s. 9 out of 18, it's exactly 50% odds, and is way more obviously an increase than that 2 to 3 stock match scenario. Okay, so what if it's the same setup but we do put Game & Watch on his last stock each time? Will there be like a massive boost in 9s? And out of 14 judges, 8 were a 9. 8 out of 14. Technically a jump, but it's hard to say if it's a statistically significant one. I mean, it's probably not hard for someone who remembers their college statistics classes, but I know that most of you watching don't even care. Okay, so I'm about to get into a bit of a rabbit hole here, so I'm going to stop clarifying the exact stats I got just to save y'all time. So first I was wondering if perhaps the total stock count is what mattered more than Game & Watch's stocks relative to Mario's. So I had a match with 5 total stocks and got Game & Watch to 2, Mario to 3, and the odds of a 9 were still not boosted. So at least that was consistent. So then how about save 5 stocks to 3? And this also kept the judge numbers the same, no boost in odds. But then 5 stocks to 2 had a very clear boost in the chance of a 9. Additionally, 10 stocks to 3 also had a very obvious boost, even though Game & Watch had 3 stocks here, just like the 5 to 3 test. So it's not like it's dependent on the total stock count for the rounds, nor the exact number that Game & Watch has on his own, but it seems to be specifically based around just how many stocks he has compared to the opponent here. And by using the 10 stock environment, we can get an idea of exactly how that works. At 10 stocks to 5, the boost in 9 chances happens. Yet at 10 stocks to 6, it doesn't. What this and all of these other tests heavily imply is that Game & Watch actually needs to have half or less the amount of stocks as the first place opponent in this environment. This would explain any discrepancy I found in my testing, which is really interesting as any source I hear about this mechanic simply refers to Game & Watch as having to be in last place, even though you can still be in last place while having a little more than half the stock count of first place, you know? Though I feel like the deeper I try to go, the bigger this rabbit hole gets, like testing how damage may affect things, or by throwing in multiple players at once, or other game mode rules, and I think that's a bit outside of the scope of today's video. I think just for a basic takeaway, this boost in odds is present, but doesn't happen just when Game & Watch is in last place, but rather in last place by a considerable margin, to put it simply. If anyone has any other information in that regard, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And yes, it's specifically for the 5-second countdown. Like, I didn't get hard numbers for it, but I did try starting to use Judge at the 10-second mark, and it was always obvious how much more likely 9 was the moment the 5-second countdown started compared to before. Also, in some of the cases where we went to sudden death, I tried out Judge there, and out of a grand total of 59 swings, only 10 were a 9. Again, technically higher than 1/8 odds, but not enough for me to draw any conclusions. Anyways, somewhere out there I also saw that it was implied that there were 100% odds for a 9 to appear at a certain stock discrepancy or something. I mean, I don't want to do the true extreme of 99 stocks with Mario having all 99 and Game & Watch having 1, because I kind of don't want to have to KO Game & Watch 98 times just to get like 5 Judge swings in. Okay, I had to do it once to get the footage for all that whining. So the results for that were 4 countable judges, with all of them being a 9. You can see how, because we can't count the judge that follows a 9, since a 9 would be impossible following itself, that with these hypothetical guaranteed odds, you'd get a pattern of a 9 every other judge. And yes, that's the answer to the question I left hanging a while ago. That's why we don't count the judge following a 9, because a 9 isn't even possible. So I guess that means you don't actually get $1 billion because I just answered it, sorry. So that's a nice start to the idea, but on another attempt, I got one example of an exception to this, of a valid judge swing not rolling a 9, which basically ruins the whole idea. I'd love to get more data for this to see like what the exact odds were compared to the other tests, but I don't wanna. And in general, I don't think the boosted odds of a 9 are a linear or exponential increase based on a variety of factors, but rather is just a switch that gets turned on once certain criteria are met. At least that's my conclusion with my current understanding and testing. So that's all super cool. If I learn anything really crazy interesting or more concrete, I can include that in a future video as an update, but I think we should leave the numbers here. And actually, I'm probably going to talk about Game & Watch for the rest of this video, so I hope you like them. Ah, ain't he a cutie? So let's talk about numbers, shall we? This is more of a random thought than anything else, but I was kind of curious about what sort of logic was going on with the numbers that rolled before the judge hit. There's 15 numbers that appear on the sign before the actual number of the judge, and I was just sort of wondering if there were any connections to be found between them and the final number or anything like that. So I gathered up all the numbers, did some looking around, and my conclusion is that the scrolling numbers are completely unrelated to the final judge swing. There were even a few times where the last of the scrolling numbers was the same as the final number, meaning 2 numbers appeared twice in a row, which normally does not happen. I'll leave a picture of all the data points I bothered writing down if you want to look at it too, but for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about now, I'm going to show off 2 of them right here. So do you notice any kind of trend or pattern with these strings of numbers? I'll give you a second to think about it so you might be able to feel smart. Actually, wait, that's bad for viewership, isn't it? So just pause if you want to feel smart. And now let me show you. Yep, after 9 numbers into the string, it gets repeated every single time. So obviously what's going on here is a random string of numbers 1 to 9, one of each number, is chosen at the start of the move, and then it just cycles through that until the final hit is chosen, whose number is unrelated to this string. This would imply that if the startup of Judge was way longer, we'd just see something like this cycle over and over, which I thought was just really neat. Okay, that's enough numbers for realsies now. And lastly, SNG77 on my Discord showed me something really funny with Game & Watch. We're already well aware that Game & Watch is a fully 3D model that just gets made 2D in the camera. He's got a lot of depth and detail going on that gets sort of silhouetted. A really funny example of lost detail involves his mouth. Look at this animation of him throwing a heavy object upwards. He's clearly looking up, with his nose right here, so his mouth should be somewhere around here hypothetically, right? Well, it doesn't actually need to be hypothetical, as if we equip something like a metal box, we can see the outline of his mouth perfectly. It's basically Snoopy at this point, right? It makes sense, the metal box is reflective according to any changes of its shape, So now we can see much more of our good friend here. And of course this goes for any other effect that would cover the body with similar amounts of detail. And this happens for a lot of animations. My favorite one being this one when he's pulling something out from the ground. I laughed for a solid minute when I saw this godforsaken frame. I'll let you make your own jokes about this one so I can stay advertiser and kid friendly. Okay, so just let me know if anyone else sees it, but after looking at this one a lot, I feel like that the mouth is like eyes, or like goggles or whatever, with the nose being like the top of a hat or something, right? Maybe something like Bomberman even? Also, I noticed how the exact lighting on Game & Watch's normal model when he's metal changes when I do like any kind of normal action with an item or a tilt or shooting the staff or what have you. It's like it gets inverted for some reason. It's kind of weird. We have already gone over on this channel how for the unique Game & Watch forms, the metal effect looks all crunkly, like crumpled up newspaper, I don't know. Actually, I probably should have used a metal metaphor, not a paper one. Now this is one I actually don't remember if we've gone over on the channel before, but throughout all these mini Game & Watch tests is where I kind of realized, or maybe remembered, that the sour spot of his forward smash has no sound effect at all. It's weird that the sour spot would be silent when normally that's accounted for in other moves like Mario's forward smash. But whatever, I guess. I'm like not even mad or anything. Anyways, I think that's more than enough nonsense. I hope you all enjoyed this very Game & Watch oriented video. I usually try to have more diversity in these random facts videos, but I guess sometimes the topics become interesting enough that I want to give them more time. Though I feel like I've said that a lot at this point. You already know what you're into here, right? I hope you all agree that the odds from Game & Watch's judge are an interesting concept, because if you don't agree and you yell at me, I think I would cry really loudly in this Arby's that I'm in right now. Quick plugging, I recently released a supercut that has like 2 years of content in it that's super condensed and updated. I'd highly recommend it for anyone who's new to the channel or who hasn't like seen like all of my videos before. I'm going to be linking that somewhere in the description. And I'm also again linking an invite to my Discord if you want to hop in to share any facts you've got for future videos. And of course I'm having all of my sponsor stuff linked below. It'll genuinely help me out a lot if you use my code to get yourself some yummy food to make. I think you'd actually like it. Pretty soon I might want to try and branch out with the exact kind of videos I make. I have a few ideas for some that are still in the Smash series, and some that are in other game series, all still loosely being random facts related. Next upload I'll probably do something half different, half the same, and we'll just go from there. But I hope you all look forward to whatever it is I do and keep supporting me. And I also appreciate the support from my gorgeous patrons Raighne, Slow700, Wescott Reed, Burbo, and everyone else. Stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.